So, hello good people, and welcome back to my channel. This is Sam Werimo. Today I want to give a tribute, and this is it's a personal tribute to an enigma, and that is Agwambo. And you might wonder, why did I have to wait this long? But sometimes you have to let the dust settle, and then you speak your mind. Then you also listen to the politicians speak and lie, and then you do it your own way. Again, I do this because of the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas there. I have several in my household, and some of them do not really know the man behind the curtain, and they were like, why are you guys so much into this? And it's just another person who had seen his own life go. But I felt I wanted to give a perfect eulogy from the mountain, and I'm not representing the mountain. I'm far from that, but I'm representing myself, and as an individual who grew up or who found Raila already a gentleman and doing his thing. And for a person coming from the mountain or from Mount Kenya, there's something that was so odd with us, because growing up, like I remember when I was barely around 5 or 6, when I came to know myself, there was one thing that back at home, back at my rural area, they would always tell us that never mention that word in front of us. Never mention the name of that person in front of us. They never told us why. So we grew up hating a man that we did not know. And by the time I was getting into even teenage, I think there are two men in my life who at that time I hated. And one of them was my dad, who I don't even know. So at least for him, he's vindicated to be hated because he left me and never saw me grow. But the other person that I really hated without a reason was Raila Agwambo. And even to date, I cannot tell you where this hatred came from, because like the way the history of our country is done, they never give you reasons. I mean, they'll just tell you stuff and you have to stick with them. And so we grew up hating this man. And all the times that he was up for election, I think I've seen him stand for election for like 4 times in the times when I could vote. I don't know whether it's 4 or 3. But in all those, I never voted for him, because me sidanganyi. Me, I just tell it as it is. And the reason why is because I always felt the other person represented something better. And kinda, I look at it and I'm like, other than Kibaki, there's really no other person that has really done something that I can say that Raila would have done worse. And I don't know, as I eulogize him and as I pay a tribute to the man who has now rested. And it's weird because as Africans, we always want to associate so many good things about stuff, even when we were worst of enemies with people. Once they die, they say that you don't speak ill about a dead person. So I'm not here to speak ill about him, but I'm here to remember him for who he was. And true to my fashion, I'll always take, no matter who you are, no matter how bad you are. I'm not saying that Raila was bad, but I'll also look at the things that I can learn from you and how I can apply those things in my life to make myself better. So I look at Agwambo and I ask myself, now that this man is gone, with all the years that he lived, is there anything that I can take from him? And that is how I would want to remember the man, the enigma. The person that could easily stop reggae in Kenya, and it really stopped. And I know back in the day when he was there, we could never admit it. But now I think it is from the mountain. The mountain will tell you that this guy was huge. He was something. I mean, there's no way people can be this against you if you represent nothing. And the one thing that I've learned from Raila, may God rest his soul in peace, is that you never give up, and you have to make people take notice of your presence, whether they like you or they hate you. I mean, this is a guy who was in all the governments. I don't think there's any, I don't know whether Kalonzo is in the current government, but I think he's the one person that I can tell you that has been in all those governments. Whether he forced it or they even came for him and asked him to be there. Like the current government, who had said that they would never shake hands with this man, even looked for him when he was not even interested. That's the kind of person that we are talking about. And I think as Raila lies there in the grave, I think he has written himself in the history books of the Jamhuri or of Kenya, and nobody can take that away from him. When I compare him with Moi in terms of being professors of politics, I think the main difference between the two is that Moi would do anything possible to stay in power. But I think Raila decided to do it the right way. And we all know how it happens in Kenya. If you choose to do it the right way, then you'll never get there. That's Kenyan politics for you, and it's high time we accept it. Or we accept that the situation, not accept that that's how we should be doing it. So he was a huge guy for our nation, and now I respect him as much as he was not a competitor or a rival, but I can say he was somebody that I considered different from what I stood for then. But now we have to put our hands up and say that this guy was huge, and he was quite an important person in our Kenyan politics. With him, when he was in opposition, things were being done. I think failure came whenever he would become part and parcel of that government. But that is neither here nor there for this moment. And before I finish, I think there's also one thing that I would want to mention before I call it a day, because it's good to have closure. I think the Mulima, this is the Mulima having closure, or me having closure with this huge guy and an important person in the lives of Kenyans. And as he goes, I think I would also want to appreciate how his death was announced to us. I mean, this guy was so huge that when he passed on, they had to sit down and strategize on how to tell Kenyans that he's no more. That's how big he was. And I think I honor his family on his behalf, because he brought a status, other than the father having been in politics, I think he took the family name even higher. I don't think there's any Kenyan who would dispute that, or who would say that they would rather be themselves the way they are than be how Raila was. When the people who organized how to report the death to us, and I'm saying, I'm clapping for you, because you know Kenyans, you know how we react to stuff, we know how reactionary we are and how we just act before we think. And I know it would have even been bad if we just announced it as it was. I'm a sociologist by profession, or an anthropologist per se, but I do understand that when you observe things and you observe actions of people, they'll tell you whether they are lying to you or they are telling you the truth. I don't think the way it was broadcasted to us, how he died, was the right one. I think they had to shift it a bit so that we can accept it. For example, I don't know how a family can lose their family head, and then in 2 days they are able to address the nation. And that is coming from the children, coming from the wife. I mean, it's not possible for them to heal that fast. So I believe they had had enough time to heal and absorb the news. And whichever manner he died, whether he died in Kenya or in India or in wherever, for me that is immaterial. All I appreciate is that the way it was broken to us, now that we look into it later, I think we can appreciate that Kenyans were able now to absorb it in a more sane manner. Before I finish, I'll also commend Raila in his grave, because he acted not like many Kenyan men. And I don't know whether I commend just him or either two, but for a guy his status and having no other woman showing up to say that I also had a kid with this guy, and you cannot keep a woman quiet. So if they were there, they would have woken up and said. This guy was only married to Ida in politics, and that shows a degree of loyalty that is not common in the common day human being. So commends to him, and that's all I can say about the man. And I pray to God that he can now rest in peace, and Kenya will never forget this man. As we count the number of presidents that we have had, we'll always have Raila there with a star there, because he was never a president, but he did everything that presidents could do in Kenya. His status was just up there, if not even beyond some of them that I'm not going to mention. So God bless the whole family. God bless the Luo fraternity for giving us such an enigma in our Kenyan politics and our Kenyan history. It's a shame that we never had a chance to experience his leadership, because we'll never know. The Mulima can always say that how bad it would have been under him, but we will never know, and that's a fact. And we have tasted so many people from our land, or from even the Kalenjin community, and other than Mwai Kibaki, I don't think there are others who can stand and say that I did something better than what this guy could have done. So God bless you all. This is me sharing to the world how I felt about the guy who I was taught to hate, and this is me honoring him in his deathbed. It's such a shame that we could not be able to give him his roses when he was alive, but such is life. God bless you. Peace.